Aloha! I wanted to do a post about why I changed my name. I'm very open about the fact that I've changed my name, so I get a lot of questions about it. So why did I change my name? Well, to understand that, you have to understand what is a name. A name is a description of who you are. So every time you introduce yourself to someone, you are in fact describing who you are to them. And for me, when I was doing research on names for genealogy, I realized that that's what a name really is, and that I had a responsibility to accurately describe myself to the people that I was introducing myself to. Not only that, but I never really felt like my original name fit me. It wasn't something that made me feel overjoyed when I heard it. So I decided to change my name. One of the questions I get is like, well, isn't that weird? Like, what? And they want to know more of the reasons behind it other than I just wanted to. So I want to go into a little bit about traditional names and how and why they came about. Traditional names are comprised of a first, middle, and last name. Now, the last name was to indicate the region in where your family had come from. And the middle name was your baptismal name. So it was usually an indication of what religion you were from. And then your first name, you were usually named after a family member, depending on what position you held in the family, was depending on what family member you were named after. So first sons were named after their father, second sons were named after their grandfather, etc. So when you would introduce yourself, a person could tell right away what region your family had come from, your religion, and what position in your family you held. Now, this was particularly useful in monarchy times because it was pretty much your name was a census of who and where your family had come from. But it did not describe you. It had nothing to do with who you were as a person. And I've always had an issue with that. If a name describes you, or a name is supposed to describe you to the world, then it should describe who you are accurately, your personality, your character, whether or not you're a happy person, whether or not you're a sad person, etc. So I've never really found that satisfying. Now there are other naming systems. Native Americans, they would name each individual based on what they saw from them. And I kind of liked that. I do, because it accurately describes who a person is. And in ancient Hebrew times, when a person had a serious life-changing event and felt like their name no longer suited who they were, they would change it. So those are a couple of the traditions in other cultures. I personally like those way better than the traditional first, middle, and last name. So for me, when I went to choose a new name, I had to think about who I was. And it was kind of a journey for me. You have to sit down, you have to ask yourself a lot of questions. You have to really get to know yourself. And for me, I went into all these personality profiles into like auras and, you know, just all kinds of things to try and figure out what I should call myself. And I eventually discovered that what truly suited me was the yellow monarch. I've always loved the yellow monarch. I've seen the yellow monarch many times in my life. They've lit on me several times, off and on during my life. And so I chose a name that meant yellow butterfly or golden butterfly. And I don't know quite how to describe this. This may sound a little silly, but when I changed my name and I heard it for the first time from other people, it was almost like coming home to myself. It was a really awesome experience. And I love it. And what's interesting is when I talk to other people about why I changed my name and what traditional names are, and that they have nothing to do with describing who you are, the comment that I most get from people is, you know, I've never felt like my name described me. And the second remark that I get is, you know, I'd love to change my name, but my family and friends wouldn't approve. They would think that I'm absolutely nuts. And they always ask me, how did you deal with that? And, you know, that was a fear of mine. It was a very real fear of mine. And it took me about 2 years to actually get up the courage to change my name. But something very interesting happened when I did. Everyone that I loved and was close to me, even though a lot of them didn't understand why I was changing my name, because they couldn't wrap their heads around it, they accepted it anyway. They loved me anyway. And I had a lot of different reactions. I had reactions of people being inspired to change their name. I had people who wanted to change their name but were too scared to. I had ones who loved the idea that I found who I was, but they were happy with their traditional names. And you know, the thing is if you're happy with your traditional name, that's amazing. But the truth is that most people aren't, but are usually too afraid of how other people would view them if they do change their name. And I did have a couple people who basically walked away. And years later, they came back and they said, you know, look, I hate my name. I hate it so much. And the idea that you could up and change your name, it upset me so much. I couldn't handle it. So if people walk away, understand that it's not you, it's not about your name change, it's about them. Now I do have one friend who has known me for many, many years, and they literally don't know what to do with my name change. We've been best friends for years and years. And when I hang out with them, when I talk with them, there's no name. There's a hi, how are you? Great. Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? No name. They do not call me by any name because they cannot wrap their heads around it. And this is one of my best friends. So, you know, sometimes it takes time. But the point is even if they can't wrap their heads around it, they will love you anyway. They will get over it. So another reason why I changed my name was, or another reason why I have trouble with traditional names, is because they're picked before a baby is born. Okay, Now you can have somewhat of an idea of personality based on how they are in the womb, but not to the same degree that you would interacting with them after they're born. So in fact, when you try and name a baby before it's born, how do you know it's going to describe it accurately? I recently had a friend who has a friend who they're having a baby, and they were asked, well, what are you going to name it? And they said, oh, we don't know. We're going to wait till it comes out, get to know it for a few months, and then pick a name that really describes it. See, now that makes sense. That's logical to me. The idea of just picking a random name out of thin air doesn't seem logical to me. So that was part of why I have always felt that traditional names should not be used. Now this also brings up the question of, if traditional names shouldn't be used and are no longer logical, what naming system should be used? And I've heard all kinds of theories. One that included your element, your aura color, and your spirit animal. Another that combined your Myers-Briggs personality plus your fantasy creature plus your zodiac. Now the funny thing about this is that one actually came from one of my best friends, and she told me, she's like, you're an INTJ, so you're Sherlock Holmes. Your fantasy creature is a unicorn, and you're a Scorpio. So combine those three, and that's what your name should be. And I looked at her, and I'm kind of confused. And I go, look at her, and I go, why? Why those three things? And she goes, isn't it obvious? You're Sherlock Holmes, you have sociopathic tendencies, you're a unicorn, you spew rainbows all over people, and you're a Scorpio. So you can literally stare someone down till they even question their own existence. I'm like, so the theories and systems of how we think about how we should name people varies greatly. But I would really be interested to know what you think the best system for naming children should be and why. And so that's all I have for you right now. I look forward to your guys' comments and ideas. Aloha!